My name is Donnie, and this is the story of my tiny houseboat. What you're seeing now is the very beginning, the inspiration that started it all. I would stay up late at night, scouring the internet for any sort of video where this had been done before, and to some extent it had. There's a few videos on YouTube of DIY barrel boats that documented the build process. The first one that comes to mind is called Chud 327. But none of these had any sort of permanent structure on them like a tiny house would. The closest thing I could find was a video by Steve Wallace where he essentially made the same thing as Chud but with a tarp over the top supported by wooden joists. This wasn't enough for me as I knew I wanted something more structurally similar to a houseboat without the weight of real metal pontoons. And without a real pontoon boat trailer or a towed vehicle, this would be my limiting factor as to the size I could build. But hey, you know what they say, in order to run, you must first float, or something like that. And with that in mind, I got to work on building something similar to Chud 327. The trailer I bought was around $350 with a coupon at Harbor Freight, and with enough jerry rigging and 2x4s, I was able to build out a structure around the trailer that would hold the boat up. The design is something similar to a scissor pontoon boat trailer. The barrels I got off of Craigslist and I had them delivered to me for around $20 a barrel. And for my boat, I originally wanted 4 on each side, but ultimately decided to just do 3 to save space and weight. So a couple of boxes of screws, a half dozen trips to Home Depot, and around $400 lighter, and I had something resembling a boat. As soon as I could get to the boat loaded on the trailer, my neighbor across the street was offering me a trolling motor to get on the back and for the first test run. A couple teeth chattering and nerve-wracking miles down the highway, and it's ready to be on the water for the first time. A short 30-minute troll up the waterway cruising at about 0.5 knots suggested that maybe this isn't suited very well for fast-moving water. But nonetheless, it floated. And the looks you get at the boat ramp when everyone lets you put in first just so they can see if your boat sinks is unbelievable. I took the boat out a few more times during the summer and even painted the deck and constructed a shelter to park it under, although a hurricane would later turn it into an expensive scrap metal. Cruising with trolling motors was fine when I was solo, but in order to camp out with friends, I would need some real horsepower. Literally. I picked up an old 1973 Mark 20 off a guy on Facebook Marketplace. When I bought the motor, it had no spark, no pull start, no impeller, or even a shifter. But with enough imagination and thrown wrenches, I somehow managed to get it to start. It was still far from perfect. Whenever the motor was cold, you'd have better luck winning the lottery than getting it to crank. But if you ever did get it to crank, it would start first pull. I then created a transom bracket to mount the motor and even created a bimini top out of a tarp and PVC. And then it was one last camping trip with the boys before school started back. Fast forward to now, where Corona has everyone at home and most places are closed. I had the time now to work on phase 2 of the plan, which was putting the house on top. By this time now, another YouTuber called the Outdoor Boys had created something very similar to what I'd imagined in the beginning. Although with their model, the boat had to be constructed at the landing in the water and then bolted together. I began by getting all my lumber for the cabin at Home Depot, which ran around $375. The cabin would measure 6 by 6.5 feet, and the boat itself would be about 8 by 10, sitting on a 4 by 8 trailer. To save weight, I used 2x3s instead of 2x4s as my studs and put them 24 inches on center as opposed to 18 as it would be in a house. The siding I used was T111 instead of plywood, which would help me get the walls to around 75 to 80 pounds each. The roof was originally going to be galvanized sheet metal, but the clear plastic weighed less and would allow me to see the stars at night. Once it was all together, it was pretty much done except for cosmetics like staining the outside and installing all the electrics and steering, which could be a totally different video on its own. The boat is equipped with nav lights, 2 LED spotlights, a porch light, solar panels, a 12-volt fridge, a diesel heater, pull-out bed, and console steering. The pull-out bed was constructed out of 4 1 1/4 mattress toppers at Walmart that I'd put together and then upholstered. The frame itself was made out of 1x3 common boards and constructed similarly to the way that van life campers make their beds. Hope you enjoyed watching the build process as much as I did building it. Sure, it's not perfect or the prettiest boat on the water, but it's mine and I did it myself. Please subscribe for future videos to come and leave a like below, and I'll see you guys next time.